White. She's the manager of library development at the Library of Michigan.
I can't believe it. This is our first trip out. It's like, it's like little kids getting out. I mentioned this, well, I won't mention what I just said to somebody else because this is being recorded. But we are very excited to finally be back out on the road. We're accepting invitations. The Male Engagement Specialists are back on the road. And you were introduced to Laura earlier, to make sure you talk with Laura about all things Mel. She's got all kinds of good news to talk about for the new year. I wanted to talk just about things that are going on at the Library of Michigan and library development. And then, of course, we'll have time for questions. And Claire's going to take some of this time, too, to talk to you about all of the legal issues and the budget that's coming up too. So first thing, we're open to the public. So if you're in Lansing, the Library of Michigan is open to the public. We are not doing any in-person stuff though in our building yet through the end of December. So not very far though, because it's almost fall and we've only got 3 months left for the rest of the year. Other big things are going on with the Library of Michigan is our catalog. We use a catalog with the Michigan State University, and they're moving to a new system called Folio, and that Folio catalog is being implemented at this point, so MelCat's not back up. So we have had a few questions about that, but that will come back in whenever we can in the next few months. So hopefully once that is settled, you'll be able to start using our library science collection for professional development again, which we've been increasing over the past few years to provide you with some professional development resources. Some other things that are happening though in library development are we've had some staffing changes. So you may have noticed some ads come out. So our MEL coordinator, Michigan E-Library coordinator, Liz Breed, left us in the spring to go to Jackson District Library, and so we're currently recruiting for a new MEL coordinator, and that application window just closed, and so hopefully we'll have interviews and everything that goes along with that, and expect somebody in place by December or January, which will be great. We have a great MEL team at the Library of Michigan and at MCLS, and we'll be happy to have a new MEL coordinator back. We also have a new addition to our staff named Biz Gallo. Biz joined us from actually the private sector. She worked on digitization projects for a private company. She comes to us from, well, she lives in Canton, but she was a University of Michigan grad, and she is our new knowledge expert in digitization. So if you're a library that has thought about doing some digitization projects or wanted to submit a grant for a digitization project and you weren't quite sure where to go or what to do, she is somebody we have actually on staff now that can help guide you with some of those decisions that you want to make or programs that you're interested in having happen in your area. Barb Williams is another new member of our department. She took over Kathy Kaczynski's position, and she joined us from Kent District Library in March, and she's a part of our MEL team as well. So you may see her name come up every now and then. She works a lot with our data, and she's on the MEL team. We have an open position now. Yvette Adkin left in the spring, and we're currently thinking about how we're going to redesign a position to fill that role, and I think we're going to focus it more on library technology. It's not totally settled yet, but that's an area that we've always wanted to be able to provide more assistance with, and the library community obviously I think has a lot of need and support in that area, so hopefully we can tailor a new position to focus more on library technology and help everybody out in the field in that area. And then another thing that we'd like to do, but we're not sure about yet, but as we've seen over the past year, we have a lot of grants going on. And so we're looking to see if we can add more support for grants management at the Library of Michigan. Right now, we have the CARES Act grants. We had $2 million from the Institute of Museum and Library Services for CARES Act grants. And right now we're pulling staff off of other programs to help with the CARES Act reimbursement process and everything. So we have 4 of our staff working on those grants right now. So to see if we can get into a more sustainable model down the road, we'll see if we can solve that with some additional staffing. And then we have ARPA grants. And as we've mentioned, and if you've been on a Friday meeting recently, you've heard that the ARPA funds were not authorized yet by the legislature for us to distribute. They have to put that in a supplemental bill, and that bill is, we believe, may have either passed on the drive up, though we haven't seen the final bill language. But I would expect by the end of today, this afternoon, that if you're looking in your emails or something, or you notice something on tonight's news, you'll see that the legislature will have passed a new budget, and it will include that ARPA funding. So once that happens, we'll be able to proceed with that grant program. So that's really good news for the libraries and for us as well, so we can get down and help you with your grants. And also because it's such a strict and very trim timeline for that, we want to be able to get those out to you as soon as possible. One of the other things that's part of the new budget is an increase in state aid. The amount that was listed, it's not final because the governor has not signed off on this, was $15 million. So that's an increase of, I believe, $2 million for state aid for this year. And that's the biggest increase we've had in several years. The last one was $1 million, so it's nice. Maybe next year it'll be $3 million. So definitely take a look at your email, look at the news tonight, see what you hear about all this. So I would expect that in the next few days everything will be finalized. So we're definitely looking for that to hopefully pass through the final and come out. But if you look at anything today, those are the numbers that are out there in the reports today. So another thing that we've been doing over the past years, Cheryl said, was providing a lot of resources to help you weather the pandemic in your libraries, with your staff, and with your communities. All of those resources are still available to you, and we have continued with our Friday meetings. They've drawn back from weekly to bi-weekly, and now they're monthly. Second Friday of every month. They still end up being a lot about COVID. I don't know. What do you know? But that's something that we had not done before, and we're going to keep as a permanent fixture to keep networking and communication and information flowing out to the library community. So we don't have to, not that we're not going to come here and see 50 of you at one time, but we could also speak to 400 of you at one time, which and everybody can receive that same message, and hopefully that will help just spread information, help you with the resources you need, help you communicate with your staff and boards and your communities too. So, and always let us know if you have questions that you want to discuss during these meetings. It's totally open. So if you have questions you want to talk about in those meetings, definitely let us know. And then one of the other things I mentioned to someone, since we're starting to get out, and I expect other people are also starting to get out and see opportunities where they can travel for their own training and professional development, don't forget that the Library of Michigan still has stipends to help support your own professional development. So those stipends range from, a few $100s up to $1,600. So if you were wanting to travel out of state to an upcoming conference, perhaps Public Library Association conference that's coming up in March of 22, or the National American Library Association conference that's in DC in June, or perhaps another one that's happening between now and one of those that is coming up. Our stipends are available up to $1,600 for the out-of-state, so that can definitely supplement resources that you may have, or possibly could fully cover some of the travel that's available there. So now that we are mobile a bit more and conferences are going on, we encourage you to take advantage of those funds that are still available to libraries across Michigan. it is not, they're only limited by the individual and not by the library. So if a library director receives one, library staff can still receive them. So you can't receive more than one in a fiscal year, but it's by the individual. So the individual can't receive more than one of these awards a year, but that doesn't mean that your library can't receive, 3 or 4 or whatever. So we would encourage you to apply for that funding. We regularly put around $100,000 in that line item in our budget. These are federal funds in our LSTA budget. So those are available. And now that we're back on the road and you can get back on the road, don't forget about that program. So some of the other things that we've done this year that I did want to mention, we've kind of been doing or coming up with new ways for traditional services. So in the past, we've had in-person meetings, which we will definitely be getting back to. But some of the things that we've had in person, they have not had another option available to them. So when we did new or advanced directors, if you are an individual director that needed to attend that, it was an in-person meeting. We didn't do it 2 different ways. And when we would receive information from attendees and from managers and directors when they talked about our in-person meetings, such as new or advanced or beginning, the attendees especially liked the fact that they were in person, and that was one of the reasons that we never moved it online. The people had that one opportunity where they could get together with peers and colleagues. And so we were always very hesitant to take that opportunity away. And the pandemic has sort of made that a decision that was sort of taken out of our hands to a point. So we do have an online opportunity for that, and that is the new director pathway that's in Niche Academy. And in some ways, I'm very sad to say that we're not going to have that available in Lansing, but in other ways, that means that that's an opportunity for you to attend something else that would also be valuable for your own professional development. So Niche Academy is a platform we brought up around the time of the pandemic starting, and we have the new director pathway in there. We have one more module to create for the advanced director pathway, and we will be releasing the beginning workshop pathway as well. Because we're not going to be doing those in person, though, doesn't mean that we won't have other in-person opportunities. So we're just going to dream up and come up and create other things where we can see you in person that meet the needs. They just won't be those 3 particular workshops in the future. And I do hope that because some of this is online, a lot of this information is valuable to more than just the directors. So a lot of this information that we've created in Niche and put into these modules is really valuable to board members or other members of your staff. And so just having that information sharing and that availability to understand how different things work from our end of things, or maybe trying to understand penal fines or state aid or library ethics or something like that, that's going to be available more openly than before, because you're not going to have to drive down to a particular location to hear about it. So we have turned in several of the modules in New Directors Workshop have also allowed us to create a pathway for trustees. So that's also available in Niche. And one of the things that's in our strategic plan is to increase our training for library trustees. And we've done a lot of that over the past year. And Claire teaches all of that. And she was instrumental in creating pretty much probably 75% of new directors. Claire, and Kathy, and Karen, and Joe, and all those regulars that you hear about created all these information modules. But that's something that we're really trying to provide more resources for. So in addition to the United for Libraries training that we had before, we still provide and fund United for Libraries membership statewide, and that's paid for with our LSTA funding. But now we're also trying to make things more available that we actually create that can be a little more long-standing and aren't necessarily just watching a recorded webinar. It's more of a learning experience that you don't have to sit and just rewatch what you missed. It's more of something that you can follow along. You can have audio, you can have video, you can have text all together for it. And so we'll continue to work on those. Some of the other things that are coming up that sort of follow along in that path are the Mel Maven badge that Laura can probably tell you all about too. And today is our launch for the Mel Maven badge. So this is another niche module that helps frontline staff understand and learn how to use the electronic resources that are part of the Michigan E-Library. And so this will enable us to get the training that's necessary for the frontline staff that are working directly with patrons out more readily, and also help with information literacy training. So it's a badge, so if you finish it, you get you're awarded a badge. This could be something that's incorporated into your own, if you're a union library, it could be part of continuing education that's required there, or if you're not, and you have other types of training requirements for your staff, you could also integrate that as part of a training package that's expected of staff too. Or you could just encourage your staff to take the training as well. But we think that that will help really sort of beef up the expertise and make the frontline staff feel more confident when they're trying to use MEL resources to answer questions from their community members and your patrons. So that's going to be available as of today. So definitely take a look at that. Other things that we've done lately are increase other training opportunities. So we have a subscription to PCI webinars that provides monthly live webinars on a variety of library topics. And we've taken some things that we've done in person and made sure that we also had video components to them. So if you were unable to attend something like a particular in-person PLOUD training, if you're a PLOUD library, that is now available online all the time. So just hoping to make things more easily accessible, readily available to those that need it, and ensure that you can provide the best services available in your community too. A couple of the new things that I want to mention are, so two new initiatives. We have and this hasn't been announced yet, so we're going to see more information coming out, but we have a hotspot program that we're going to ramp up as a pilot for small and rural libraries. So we're going to be looking for participants that meets some of the measures where there's not a lot of broadband availability, that have high unemployment, that have a high SNAP number, and that also are in areas in perhaps economic decline. So those would be sort of the measures that we would look at to award to be a member of the pilot, but it would provide a library in a rural small area with some hotspots, like maybe 5 to 10 hotspots that you would be able to circulate to patrons. And the point of the program would be not to do this in perpetuity, but to help the library and the staff get familiar with that, get your community familiar with that, and then help you work on a more sustainable model for how that could continue in the future. So that's something that's going to roll out in the next year. So you'll have a certain period of time where it's funded and you can learn about that, and then we can see how we could help you. Maybe there's grants or other types of things that you would want to do if you wanted to carry that on. And I think one of the things with some libraries are there's lots of stuff going on, and if you don't have somebody to help you figure how you want to implement that out in your own community, it's easier to say, well, I'm not sure we're ready to do that. And so we're hoping that if we can provide some material, training, support, handbooks, and guidance and everything around that, that it'll help some of the libraries that may have been hesitant to take up something like that to circulate in their community before, the opportunity to say, yeah, if I feel like I've got support for this now, I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to try this out in my community and see how it goes. So that's one of the things behind, or the ideas behind, the Hotspot program. And then we have another program which has been mentioned before out to everyone in the community, but now we're actually a real financial partner in it with the Department of Health and Human Services, and it's Get Set Up. And this is live, online, virtual programming for older adults. And so I've marketed this on Mich Libel in the past, but this is one of the things that we want to help libraries provide virtual opportunities, because your communities have learned that that's something that they can like and it's easy accessible, but it's something that takes a lot of time for your staff to create. And so it's not necessary that everybody create all the same stuff all the time in 400 different libraries. So this is something that's available, just like the MSU extension courses that we promote. It's out there. You can promote to the older adults in your community for and it would provide high quality virtual programming on a number of subjects and different topics. So there would be knowledge experts to help older adults learn about digital devices, or financial literacy, or cooking classes, or exercise classes, or travel, or language, or yoga, or different sorts of health things. All of that kind of stuff that you're already trying to do, but can be really difficult when you have a very small staff at your local library. You could point your patrons to this. So it's somewhat akin to us helping furnish you with an electronic resource. This is sort of like the tool for you to find some virtual online programming for older adults. So hopefully you'll be able to integrate that into the marketing you do out to your community as well. It's already available through Plowed sites. So if you're a Plowed library already, there's a link on that site. But you're going to hear us talk more about this, and hope that you pick that up too and encourage your staff to use some of that, so you can maybe focus some of their time on something else that you may find a higher priority, but you don't want to lose your virtual programming because your community finds a need for that. So this will help fill that gap. And so we hope that that would be something that is worthwhile for your library and your community. So let us know what you think about that over the next year. That'll be we're definitely interested in some feedback about how that helps you or what you would need. So it's a little different endeavor for us, but we look at this pilot as a way to help you support what your community needs, though you may not always have the funding or the staff to do as much of it. So hopefully that can help you in that way. And then in the future, we have a new LSTA 5-year plan coming up. So in the next week or so, you're going to start to see, if you're a director or a library manager, you'll start to see surveys about our new LSTA 5-year plan and our old one. So if you do see that come across your email, we encourage you to take a few minutes to let us know what you think about what happened in the past 5 years, and then what you're going to want in the next 5 years, because we need to craft a new plan for how we use our federal dollars. We'll continue to find ways to provide high quality instruction. So some of the new things we talked about with the niche modules and different things like that, we're going to continue to develop more online instruction. But also, as I said before, we still have an ear to listen to the community to see what you still want in person. And those can continue alongside the other things that we're doing. And then some of those things that we've started doing in the pandemic, like our financial cohort. Do we have anybody that's a member of the financial cohort here? Hey, two. Oh, awesome. So we found that this model of creating small cohorts around a particular topic has been something that seems to be really helpful for the participants, because it gives an opportunity to sort of develop, some relationships, because it's an extended period of connected and participatory types of meetings and activities that you're dealing with in the cohort. But it lets you dive deeper into whatever topic it is. And so I think that is raising the knowledge level and skills and abilities of the participants of these cohorts, and we want to continue to do those in the areas where there's a high need. So understanding your budget and library finances is not something that any of us come out of any sort of program understanding at all. And so this is, and one of the things is like, I don't know it, and Karen doesn't know it, and Claire doesn't know it, so we're not the best people to go out and teach it either. So one of the things we're trying to do is find solutions where we do have knowledge experts that not only understand the topic matter, but understand the libraries as well. So the financial cohort was created to help governmental entities and libraries understand how this works in their particular environment. So that's something that we hope to bring back as well. And I think I mentioned digitization, so if you do have questions about that, that was sort of my last slide here before I turn it over to Claire. I'm going to turn it over to Claire, and then I know we've got cards for questions. So before our hour is up, we'll stop, take questions, look at the note cards, make sure that we get as many answers to you today. And if we can't answer exactly what you're asking, we'll find whoever the best expert is on the team to help with that particular question. But at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Claire to finish up our hour.